Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to Sunrise Extra, our live streaming, unscripted, I can't even talk. My mouth has given up and we haven't even started yet.
It's hard for us.
Welcome. This is a conversation that could go all different kinds of places. Sometimes we talk amongst ourselves, other times we have fantastic guests like we do this morning. Welcome to legendary sportscaster Ann Schatz. So good to see your smiling face. She has done it all. She's worked for the Pac-12 Network, the Portland Thorns. We want to talk all about that. You actually are out on the coast living there right now. How are things your way? I guess I should ask you that first.
Oh, it's kind of surreal out here, you guys. Very, very quiet, as you can imagine. You know, up and down the coast, the respective mayors have asked tourists and visitors to stay away during this time. So very quiet during the week and eerily quiet on the weekend, when at this time of year, you would expect a lot of tourists and visitors. So quiet. Social distancing is not a problem. It's not an issue, except when you go into the grocery stores and folks get it and are very good and kind to each other. But, you know, we are removed from some of the city trappings and challenges with COVID-19. And so it's been fairly easy, all things considered, to navigate this new world out here.
Well, I am definitely glad to hear that. And we wanted to bring you in because sports is such a touchstone. It's continuing, a touchstone for our community, for our country. Nina, do you remember when this all started and you were like, when the NBA canceled all the games, that's when this new normal, it was like, oh my gosh, it affects me.
Huge.
It is huge. So we're getting our sports fix from Ann this morning, just a little bit. I mentioned that you work with the Portland Thorns and you keep in touch with the players. This is Soccer City, USA. So tell us, it's getting a little lonely here in Portland without the team. What are they doing? How are they training? How are these young women?
Well, I think they're hanging in there. I think one of the really neat things about the Thorns and Timbers, without question, is their ability to understand what the bigger picture is right here. And while they're really bummed and they're sad and they are missing their sport so desperately, and we're missing watching them play their sport, they understand that bigger things are happening. So they respectfully, you know, just kind of keep plugging along like all of us do. But when we do have a chance to check in with them, you know, the club is very, very, very good about group training sessions. Zoom is a wonderful thing, as we see and hear. Group training sessions and then individual training sessions. If they can get to a parking lot, if they can, in their apartment, until people start banging on the floors and telling them to quiet down because of their jumping drills, which happens quite a bit, that they are given individual workouts. A lot of them have their own little weight system in their homes or in their apartments. They, of course, got a plethora of balls, and they figure out a way, as best they can, to quote-unquote train. We all know there's no substitute for the real thing. But the communication that the club is in, all the clubs, but we know the Thorns uber intense in communication. Everyone feels at least part of the group because of all these Zoom calls and all these efforts to make sure things are in collaboration and, you know, with good spirit, good intention, and the hope of someday getting back on the pitch this summer.
Hey, Ann, Rod Hill here. I'm curious,
Hey, Rod.
number one, if you have a favorite sport, and then number two, what have you found yourself missing the most? If there's one, you know, televised sporting event or live sporting event that you're like, oh my gosh, I really missed that one.
Well, you know, kind of as a kid, Rod, my favorite sport was whatever was in season, because we played all sports back in the day. So it was whatever came around. Gosh, I'm thinking, you know, there's nothing better than basketball, and then softball would roll in, and I think, well, wait a minute. And I'm kind of like that when I'm covering the three sports for the Pac-12. When I go from soccer to basketball to softball, they just leapfrog into the favorite mode. So that's kind of where I stand there, which is great because I'm not longing for anything that happened a day or a week or a month ago. I'm ready to go for and immersed into what's at hand. I'm going to go back to Brenda even bringing up the Thorns. I really miss calling softball games. Being involved with collegiate athletics, there's nothing quite like it. To be in the esprit de corps and that energy, that youthful energy is so wonderful. To be able to call those softball games at this time of year, I'm ready to gnaw my arm off. But I'm also really missing the Thorns. They were supposed to open up the season just a week ago, and honestly, I'm missing the heck out of the cathedral that is Providence Park, my church, and being with 20, 22, 23,000 other churchgoers for home matches. I'm missing the heck out of that too, Rod. Oh, man.
So it sounds like if sports get going again, we're not going to have fans in the stands for a while. That changes the whole dynamic probably the most from Major League Soccer. I mean, can you even imagine like how bizarre and silent like a Timbers or a Thorns game would be in Providence Park without the Army just going crazy, without the tifos? I mean, it's like not even a game, basically. I mean, imagine have you been talking to players about kind of their feelings about that?
They really don't want to go to, I think what they're concentrating on right now is getting back on the field and being together and playing matches. And I think they'll deal with the crazy silence when that happens, because as we all know with what we're living right now, we can imagine all we want what it's going to be like to be at Providence Park without people, but until we're there and until we can experience ourselves live, you really can't imagine something you've never experienced before. So I think the players are really concentrating on just the positive, which is if they can just get back on the pitch together, training in the locker room, and then the whistle blow and a sanctioned match happening, I think they'll take it. Yes, the void will be undeniable, we imagine, but I don't think that they're thinking about that right now at all. Game day, yeah, but right now they've got other stuff I think going on.
I gotta say, we are so spoiled here in Portland to see a women's soccer team put 21,000 people in Providence Park. That does not happen, Ann, all across the country. They are playing to stadiums that aren't full.
Yeah, so on the one hand, you've got a club, the Thorns, Soccer City USA, baby, I got you. So on the one hand, you've got the Thorns giving you 20,000 a game at home. Now, think about that. That's something we could talk about forever. When they go on some different road trips, the Thorns, they play in stadiums that are pushing 2,000 or 3,000 in terms of their attendance for that respective match. So the Thorns are used to playing in stadiums with very, very small. They're energetic, they're wonderful fans, but the fan base isn't anything like they're used to here. And it's been that way for a while in the NWSL. It's been that way since the beginning, really, where the Thorns have set the standard. Other clubs have started. Utah's a great example of a franchise that really brings in the fans. But then you go to other teams in that league, and the Thorns are used to playing in front of very small crowds. They will adjust.
Hey, Ann, I am curious, it seems like especially in the sport of baseball, we always hear, an asterisk in the record book because of steroids or whatever the issue of the time. And I'm wondering if this season, when it takes place, we'll go on to have an asterisk in that. Should we expect different levels of performance and therefore maybe different stats because there's not the crowd perhaps cheering the athletes on? Does that make sense to you, my question?
It absolutely makes sense, Rod. And I think that as we all talk about it's going to be a while before fans are let in, and it will change the environment of the game, and to some level, it may change the performance. But when we're talking about the men's and women's soccer professional leagues, the NBA, if they are able to start up, wherever they start up, do they go right to the playoffs? Do they end the season? Major League Baseball, these are professionals. This is what they do for a living. This is what they get paid for. They've shifted their mentality and their ability to focus and their ability to bring it to a professional level, and that's why they are at that level. So I don't think there will be an asterisk. I think what's going to be interesting is all of these sports that we're talking about, if and when they get the green light to proceed, all of them will have to have a base amount of time with training camps. All of them. There's no light switch here. There cannot be a light switch here. This is the men's and women's livelihood. So there will be appropriate training camps before games commence. What's going to happen is you'll either see shortened seasons, in my opinion, either shortened seasons, or they'll extend seasons if they have that luxury out for a month or two. Mm-hmm. When you look at a baseball season, guys, it's a long slog of a season. How they extend that, boy, that's a headache. So you may be playing with some asterisks there because of the perhaps shortened season. Some of the other sports we're talking about, NBA, so close to the conclusion of the regular season, and that playoff system is ready to go, and soccer may be able to slide as well. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Baseball is going to be tough, really tough, to ram in those kinds of games.
Yeah, they're going to get into funky weather towards the end of the year of when. They would be doing.
They're having a hard enough time with the World Series. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pushing November anyway. Yeah. So with the way it is now, so baseball's a different deal. Some of these other sports, even with training camps, I think they're going to be okay. But as the clock continues to tick, we're burning daylight.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the NBA and stuff. Of the four of us, raise your hands if you've been watching the Michael Jordan The Last Dance documentary.
Love that.
Oh.
And okay, good. Okay, all of us. Cool. I got caught up yesterday. I've watched all four that are out so far. It has been so much fun to relive. I mean, I was a kid, during this time. I was a huge Blazer fan. I played, like middle school basketball. So my dad would pick me up from practice and we'd come home and watch, all the NBA games. I remember all these players. And it was just a crack up to me of there's so many new people moving to our state every day and to our city every day. And a lot of people did not know that the Blazers could have drafted Michael Jordan instead of Sam Bowie, and they may know of the Greg Oden, the second round of it. And what's been your take? You were a broadcaster here in Portland during that time. You interviewed all those players and went through a lot of those teams. And what's it been like, kind of watching that for you?
Oh man. So to go back to what kids would think cave days in the NBA, I can remember those days like that because it brings back such great memories of some of my all-time favorite Blazers. And when Chicago and Portland tangled for that NBA series championship, that brought back incredible memories. Those were the players that. You had Magic and you had Bird, and then you had Michael, and Michael and his supporting cast, and he had a lot of Robins, but Michael was Batman, and Scotty was Robin, and the rest of them played their roles accordingly, but the neat thing was to remember all the backstories and all of the one-offs and all the drama and. The media played a big part in the NBA back then, but nothing like now. Yeah. Nothing 24/7 like now. And Jordan always got a ton of hall passes from the media, a ton of hall passes in terms of maybe some of his extracurricular activities and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And these segments And this documentary, more than anything else, though, shining a light on some really incredible glory days of the NBA that just brought back a lot of memories, mostly because of it brought back Blazer stuff with me too. Yeah. And there was nothing like God, Dame is, I get Dame, and I get he is the mayor of Portland for all the right reasons, but nobody hits my heart like those guys back then. Yeah. Those Blazers back then.
Well, Ann, you interviewed Jordan, or should I say ambushed? You know, can you tell that story?
Brenda, I love that you remembered that from our discussion a few months ago. Love that. Yeah, you know, Jordan was a good guy, and you know he didn't suffer fools, and he didn't want his time wasted as far as interviews were concerned. You better come ready. You better have just a couple of questions, or he'd give you that stink eye, and you were done. What we would do is if the Bulls were going to be in town for a Wednesday evening game, everyone would know, all the media members would know that Wednesday morning, day of game, the Bulls would have an open to the media shoot around, light practice. You could get Michael then, Scotty, Phil, any of them. It's Wednesday, day of game. You show up then, you're going to get it. And we'd say, screw that. We're going to get him, by God, we're going to get him before then, and we're going to get him before anybody else does. Michael's a Nike guy, right? I mean, Michael is a Nike guy. So you would be able to make just enough phone calls and piece just enough information together to the Chicago franchise to figure out that Michael's got a meeting at Nike's World Headquarter campus on a Tuesday afternoon. And if he's meeting out there, that means the Bulls are practicing out there in their fully equipped, perfect gym for anybody's practice. So you go out there, you and your photographer, Morris Banks, we go out there, and all we do, because security was not real strong back then. I mean, it was great. It was great. It was great. You signed in and all that. But then you just drove around, and you knew where the gyms were, and you just set up camp, and you went from one gym to the other, and you saw a big, huge tour bus come in. You knew it was them, and you get your camera out, you let them practice, because you know at some point Jordan's coming out. So you don't want to interrupt practice. Yeah. As soon as he comes out, you got your camera on your shoulder, the mic out, you're backpedaling because he's walking to a meeting, just as you figured, and you're backpedaling, you get 2 or 3 questions in, and you're done. And you've got a great, you know, out of the normal toolbox interview with the man, the guy. And it's not in a gym, it's totally a one-off, it's really cool. He's feeling kind of frisky, he's going to a meeting to figure out how he's gonna make his next million or two, and you know, and he's feeling good. And it's not this big, huge 20 people descending on him deal. It's just you and him and Morris, the photographer. It was great. And we do that, you know, here's the weird thing, we do that a few times and nobody else caught on.
You can't ambush the Nike campus anymore. They've got things pretty tightly locked down these days.
Right.
Too much construction. There's nowhere to park anyway. Right? You wouldn't be able to park anywhere out there. There's all that construction.
I just love hearing like Marv Albert's voice from back then, and like hearing the old NBA finals, like the music of the spotlight, you know, was on like the center monitor and stuff. It's just like gets me so excited for. It was just so much fun to watch. Especially, I couldn't remember. Like how dirty like the Pistons were and just how physical and stuff, remembering that time was. And the short shorts.
They just beat the heck out of each other. Yeah, they just beat the heck out, and they hated each other's guts, and there was none of this, you know, love fest stuff. They just, you know, if they could have just poked each other's eyes out, they would. It was something.
So do you miss kind of those like, you know, like scrummy days of like, you know, running around with all the different TV crews around town, or is this lifestyle? I mean, you're over at the coast. That sounds wonderful. And calling the Thorns games, like, which one, you know, do you love better?
I think because I have the ultimate gift of integrating collegiate athletics with the Thorns and living here in nirvana. I think calling those college games during the school year is this is the greatest broadcast experience I've ever had in my whole life. This is it, and I'm sitting in it. I'm working it right now, and this has been it. Now, of all the wonderful experiences, wonderful people, the Michael Jordans, the Clyde Drexlers, and everything in between. I'm sitting in, for Ann Schatz, I'm sitting in perfection right now.
Oh, I love that, and you deserve it. Cannot let you go without asking you about Duck basketball, because the women were killing it when everything had to stop.
Yes.
Sabrina Ionescu, #1 in the WNBA draft. What do you know about what she's doing right now?
It's interesting, Brenda. I was wondering, the New York Liberty drafted Ionescu first, as you mentioned. Good on you. She lives in the Bay Area, and she was in Eugene for a little while when the cancellation of the NCAA tournament was announced. She then was able to get back to California with her family. And from what I'm hearing from folks who know her, she is still there and has not made it to New York yet. Of course, there are no training camps at this point. She is able to work out in safe practices, work out, I think, in a neighbor's gym or something like that, and is kind of better off here. And that's what I'm being told, that still in the Bay Area before heading to New York.
All right, Ann, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I know you're also a motivational speaker, so we only have a tiny bit of time left because we've got to go do Today's Show cut-ins. But can you leave us with a little something inspirational to get through this mess on days when we don't feel like it?
Well, Brenda, I'm trying to open the aperture for myself anyway, with a little more kindness and a little more compassion. For a lot of the nameless and faceless folks who are going through this living hell, and in way too many cases, passing away because of COVID. I'm trying to be more aware of, even though I don't know these people, I don't know them at all. I'm very fortunate that I keep some grief alive for them, and a lot of gratitude for my world the way it is right now. So I'm trying to just open my heart up a little bit more, let in some grief. I need to feel, even if I don't know the victims, I need to feel, I want to feel, and awfully grateful for being able to talk to you this morning. So that's what I'm trying to do on a daily basis, grief and gratitude.
Yeah, you know what? We appreciate you spending some time with us. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom. It is always a pleasure to talk to Ann Schatz. All right, everybody, be well. Thank you for joining us this morning on Sunrise Extra.